My name is Jenny, and I'm here to share the story of my journey into the world of learning English. This is not just a story of books, classes, or grammar rules. This is a tale of transformation, persistence, and self-discovery. If you've ever wondered whether you can truly master a new language, let my story be your answer. It all started on a warm summer day when I found myself on a train ride home. As I sat by the window, watching the scenic countryside pass by, my ears caught the sound of two women sitting opposite me. They were speaking English, fluent, confident, and seemingly effortless. I was fascinated but also slightly intimidated. At the time, I was just a beginner in English. My knowledge was limited to a few basic phrases and scattered vocabulary words. I could barely string together a sentence without pausing to think, translating every word in my head. And yet, something about that moment on the train inspired me. I gathered all the courage I had, looked at the women, and said, "Hello." What followed was one of the most pivotal conversations of my life. With my broken English, I introduced myself and managed to explain that I was learning the language. To my surprise, the women didn't laugh or dismiss me. They listened, smiled, and encouraged me. They even told me about their life in England and offered to help me if I ever visited. Before I left, they gave me their contact information and told me to never stop practicing. That small conversation lit a spark in me. For the first time, I realized that language was not just about memorizing words and grammar, it was about connection. It was a tool to bridge gaps, to share ideas, and to understand the world beyond my own. From that day forward, I made a promise to myself. I would learn English, no matter how difficult it seemed. I began incorporating English into my daily routine. I started translating short texts, watching films with subtitles, and even speaking to myself in English. It wasn't easy. At times, it felt like I was making no progress, but I kept going. Slowly but surely, I started understanding more, saying more, and feeling more confident. 6 months later, I had made noticeable improvements. I could hold basic conversations and understand simple texts, but I wanted more. I knew that to truly immerse myself in the language, I needed to experience it in its natural environment. That's when I made the bold decision to move to London to study English. Arriving in London was like stepping into a completely new world. The city was alive, buzzing with people from all walks of life. Everywhere I turned, I could hear English on the streets, in cafes, on the bus. I was surrounded by it, and it was both exhilarating and overwhelming. I enrolled in an English school, hoping it would provide the structure and guidance I needed. On my first day, I walked into a classroom filled with students from different countries, all with the same goal as mine, to master English. Our teacher, a kind and enthusiastic woman, introduced herself with a smile that immediately put us at ease. She told us something that changed the way I approach learning forever. "English is not just a subject," she said. "It's a way of life. You don't learn it by memorizing textbooks. You learn it by living it by speaking, listening, and experiencing it every single day." That first lesson was unlike anything I had experienced before. Instead of rote exercises, we engaged in conversations about our hobbies and interests. We paired up with classmates and practiced speaking, not worrying about mistakes but focusing on expression. It was liberating. Over the weeks, I started to see the power of this method. I was no longer afraid of making errors because I realized that mistakes were just stepping stones to fluency. My classmates and I supported each other, and our teacher encouraged us to push our boundaries. Outside of school, I made it a point to immerse myself in the language. I spoke to shopkeepers, watched English TV shows, and even joined a local football team. Every interaction was an opportunity to practice, to learn, and to grow. Little did I know that this journey was not just about mastering English. It was about discovering my own strength, resilience, and determination. As the weeks turned into months, my confidence in using English grew steadily. I found myself engaging more with the world around me, not just as a language learner, but as someone who could now hold meaningful conversations. The turning point came one day when I realized I was no longer translating everything in my head. I was thinking in English, naturally and effortlessly. This change didn't happen overnight, but it was the result of consistent effort and embracing the techniques my teacher introduced. One of these techniques, shadowing, became a game changer for me. I would play audio recordings or watch videos in English, repeating the sentences immediately after hearing them. At first it felt strange, almost robotic, but as time went on, I began to notice my pronunciation improving and my fluency felt more natural. My teacher always said, "If you want to speak like a native, you need to train your mouth like a native." She was right. Shadowing helped me fine-tune the way I moved my lips and tongue, enabling me to mimic the sounds of native speakers. It wasn't just about pronunciation, it was about rhythm, intonation, and confidence. Another technique that left a lasting impact on me was thinking aloud. Initially, it felt awkward, almost silly to verbalize my thoughts in English when I was alone, but I soon realized how powerful it was. Speaking aloud allowed me to organize my thoughts, experiment with sentence structures, and build the muscle memory needed for fluid communication. It was as if I was training my brain to think in English by forcing it to articulate ideas in real time. One day, while practicing thinking aloud, I decided to challenge myself. I stood in front of a mirror and began narrating my day in English. At first, I stumbled over words and paused frequently, but as I continued, the sentences flowed more smoothly. This simple exercise boosted my confidence in ways I never imagined. The real test of my progress came when I started my part-time job as a waitress at a cafe in London. On my first day, I was nervous. What if I couldn't understand the customers? What if I made mistakes while speaking? But as I interacted with people, I realized that communication wasn't about being perfect, it was about being understood. The customers were patient, and many even complimented me on my efforts to speak their language. Every order I took, every question I answered felt like a small victory. It was in that cafe that I learned one of the most important lessons of my journey. Learning a language isn't just about words, it's about connecting with people. Back in the classroom, our teacher continued to inspire us with her methods. She often said, "Language is not just grammar or vocabulary, it's culture, emotions, and stories." To emphasize this, she encouraged us to read extensively. She explained that reading not only expands your vocabulary, but also helps you understand the nuances of a language, its idioms, metaphors, and cultural references. I followed her advice and started reading every day. At first, I chose simple books, ones I could understand without feeling overwhelmed. Over time, I progressed to more complex texts, and with every page, I felt my comprehension and confidence improving. What stood out the most during this journey was the camaraderie in our classroom. We came from different countries, different backgrounds, but we were united by a shared goal. We celebrated each other's progress, learned from each other's mistakes, and supported one another in moments of doubt. One particular memory still warms my heart. Toward the end of the course, our teacher organized a presentation day where each of us had to speak about a topic of our choice in English. I chose to speak about my journey of learning the language. As I stood in front of my classmates recounting my struggles and triumphs, I realized how far I had come. The girl who once struggled to say a simple hello was now delivering a speech in fluent English. When I finished, the room erupted in applause. My teacher's smile said it all. She was proud, not just of me, but of everyone in the room who had worked so hard to improve. Looking back now, I realized that learning English wasn't just about acquiring a new skill. It was about discovering my own potential, breaking barriers, and building bridges. It taught me patience, perseverance, and the power of small, consistent steps. To anyone embarking on a similar journey, my advice is simple. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Embrace them, learn from them, and keep moving forward. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, immerse yourself in the language, and most importantly, believe in your ability to grow. Today, I speak English with confidence, not because I'm perfect, but because I never gave up. And if I can do it, so can you.